everyone. Welcome to the new episode of Mind Without Borders. Today we have something different for you guys than usual. The topic that we're going to talk about is related to Arsenal because we have three Arsenal fans, including myself, Manish, Umit, Utsab, and our special guest Bishwas. So, guys, how are you guys feeling about this current season? Are you guys all excited about our great win with Manchester City?
Yeah, I think I'm excited about the season. In looking at the preseason, because I want to talk a little bit about that and how I felt, how we started in the preseason. I felt like we were a bit lethargic. We did not, hit the ground running. But when it came time for the season, I think we are doing well. So far, I have seen a progression, right? Like how we started. Although there were a couple of draws, like against Fulham and Spurs, that I was not particularly happy about, but we're still yet to lose. So I think that's a good thing. And obviously, the win against Manchester City, I think after how many years? I think it's like 12 games.
12 seasons, right? 12
Two,
games?
maybe 6 seasons.
Makes
Yeah,
six
yeah,
seasons. Yeah.
yeah,
Six
So
yeah.
seasons,
so
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely a boost. So I'm excited about that. And I think that gives us sort of a momentum as we go against Chelsea next week. So I think things are looking good. Definitely.
Yeah, honestly, like I had high expectations for this year, right? Like after the surprise season we had last year, where nobody expected us to fight for the title. So I definitely had high expectation. I think in terms of Premier League, I feel like we are doing better in terms of results, but the playing style, I think it's still not clicking yet, right? Um, Compared to last year when we were, like so free flowing, like very intense, and it was like such a good football to watch, right? Like I don't think it has reached that level yet, probably because of, we have new players like Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, David Raya, like all these new players plus new season. And I think Arteta is like trying to just, kind of, I don't know, maybe prepare for the end of the season to not collapse. So he's like trying different formations. So I feel like the results have been great. Like we're undefeated, second in the league, right? Only on goal difference. But in terms of playing style, I don't think it has reached the level that I would have wanted yet. And in terms of Champions League, right? Like we did so well. Like on the first game, it was like, welcome back to Champions League, 4-0.
Yeah.
Great game. But the second game, like we lost, right? The only defeat of our season so far. So definitely, like, there's a lot of progress to be made. But I mean, 8 games into PL, 2 games into Champions League, can't complain, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about the performance versus result. I think last season we started really good, right? We we were winning games and everything was clicking, and then there was a collapse right towards the end of the season. I don't think anybody can deny that. And I think this time around, I think we are sort of I look how Man City started last season, right? Because they started pretty slow
Yeah.
and they kind of took off in the second part of the season. So I think if Arteta was to tinker, right, to tinker his style, adjust his players, I think this is the times, and I think that's what he's doing. And I think once we get to December or January, I think we'll start seeing things clicking. So yeah, I'm with you on that, right? Like I'm not particularly impressed by how we are performing, but we're grinding out results, and I think that's what matters, right? At the end of the day, as long as you get those 3 points on the board, I think nobody
Yeah,
complains.
yeah, I think some of it is intentional, right? Like, because like when
Yeah.
we went into games with Man City in the past, like we did not really change our style,
Yep.
right? It's like all high
Hmm.
flying, just wingers go ahead, like
Yep.
just the same style of pressing, like just go, and like we were always caught out with like silly mistakes in
Yeah.
the end. So I think definitely it was very conscious from Arteta where we were playing safe, right? Very like, let's not make a mistake, because that's been the cause of our defeats in the last however many games
Yeah.
with Man City. So very cautious, very kind of defensive, uh, still like, kind of trying to build that defensive structure while trying to build that build up. So I think it kind of comes out from that as well, where it's not free flowing. We're just not playing one style, which I really like for Man
Yeah,
City game, by the way.
Yeah.
yeah, no, no. It was. I see. Like this is like a 2.0 version of
Hmm.
Arteta. Last season was more about like flair. This is like this season is more about like a tactical, competence, especially when it comes to Manchester City, because this is like a tactical evolution of Arsenal, and we're going through that
Hmm.
progression. And with the beginning of the season and being the almost joint top of the league, and also like winning the first game in Champions League. So I think it's a definitely a good progression from last season,
Yeah.
personally for me, because I mean, for me, I personally enjoy like a 1-0 win than 4-0 or 5-0. I mean, because 1-0 shows you like as a team how you're able to play as a unit, and also there's much more like a tactical or the tactics involved. So I think that we have definitely Arteta definitely outfox Pep in the last game.
Yeah. And
So this was.
So I keep hearing you guys say that they're not playing as you would like them to play. So I was just curious, what do you mean by that? Like, how would you like them? Like, when I see it, I see that Arsenal hasn't lost any games, and there was only one draw or two draws, right? And rest of the games they are winning. But then I've heard this that even then, you guys like Arsenal fans are not happy as they are how the team is playing. So how do you want them to play?
I think some of us are.
Okay.
Personally, I'm happy. I mean, that might between three of us. I mean, it's like the majority probably aren't happy. I'm probably like a few of them were like. I see more of like a tactical evolution of Arsenal as a team. So from that perspective, I'm happy with 1-0 win. Obviously, the flair hasn't been there as previous seasons, but I mean, football is not about winning like with three or four goals or playing pretty. It's all about winning, and we are winning, not playing well. So I'm happy with the you know with how we're
Yeah,
progressing.
but in my opinion, though, like we don't want to be like Chelsea, right? We don't want to be playing Mourinho style of play, where it's very always about tactics
hmm
and like kind of very defensive. Although I know like his teams, like some of his teams have scored a lot of goals, but they don't have a very eye pleasing style, right? Like which Arsenal is known for. The reason I love Arsenal, like
No,
our Wenger
but
style of football, or like kind of like Barcelona style of football. We used to have that, and we
but
had that last year to a great extent. Like when we were good, we were even better to watch than Manchester City, right? Manchester City, I mean, yes, they have very creative players. They pass a lot. They have a lot of possession, and like they score goals. But I thought we looked even better than them when we played well last year, because it was like so exciting to watch, because it was like our wingers just like going and
hmm
pressing and just being creative, and like we're just like really good to watch, which we can't say this season so far, right?
no, I think most of us have been like kind of spoiled by the Wenger era, because before Wenger there was George Graham, and it was always 1-0 to
Yeah, yeah.
Arsenal. We were known for playing like boring football, and we were like Wenger kind of give rise to the new breed of Arsenal fans like ourselves, who are much more like like the free flowing attacking football of Arsenal. But I mean, but if you look at historical context of Arsenal, we were never like a pretty playing
Yeah,
team.
yeah.
So from that context, it's a evolution, right? And personally, I mean, if I wish we had someone like Mourinho, and you guys might not agree, but It's like
you
winning
know.
titles. I mean, you play football to win the game. I mean,
It's
I don't care for like these style points. Like, oh, you played well. You
No,
played great,
why can't
but
we have
you
both, right? Like what?
no, no. I mean, Arteta is bringing that. I'm just bringing the different analogy.
yeah.
Like, if we had someone like Mourinho and we were winning like Champions League, which we had never won in our
Hmm.
history, right? I mean, I would
Yeah,
take that.
I think Moreno. Well, first of all, no Moreno. I'm glad we don't have Moreno in our club. Over the years, I think Moreno has kind of chilled out a little bit. Like, when he started in the Premier League, he was this arrogant, right? Arrogant person. And I think I want somebody representing my club, who is really who knows how to deal with the media, not arrogant, right? So that's one of the things I don't like about Mourinho, the baggage he brings to the club. But going back to Manish's point about that 1-0 to Arsenal, so I am in the camp where I'm now kind of, now I can, where he said like, oh, like, he's in the majority or minority, right? So I was one of those majority fans. I was like, oh, I don't like this style of playing because I have those, PTSD where we are not good at, or we were not good at
Hmm.
playing defensive football. Like we always got scored on, right? So
Yeah.
having 1-0, I'm always like, oh, we're gonna concede a goal, and we need to have that cushion. So like, I need another goal, right? And I think Arteta is changing a little bit in that front because now you see, right, a more of ball control. Even with Man City, when we scored the goal in the late 86 minute, you could see Ben White kind of doing those nutmeg to Doku and trying to control the ball. So I kind of see that pattern changing. So yeah,
Isn't
but
it? Isn't it? It doesn't this happen in football that when the the manager changes
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
also when we know that every few years there will be new players and the team changes completely in one decade, then how can we expect that the type of football they play is similar from 10 years ago versus now?
It's not about just being similar. Like let's say for example, Real Madrid, right?
Yeah.
If you go to Real Madrid and if you just win, the coach is going to get fired, right? Their expectation is always
yeah,
like we win, but also we play a certain way, right? there's
Hmm.
there's a style that they want. They have like higher expectation. It's not only about just winning. It's about, you win with like a great pleasing to watch kind of football,
So
right?
who decides those styles? I thought it was the players and the managers.
I mean,
It
it's
comes from the
the
manager, right? It starts with the manager, right? But like the club also has a, say in that, in how they
mhm,
choose the manager, right?
yeah,
Like if they just go for Simeone, Diego Simeone, like the club is basically saying we just want to win, right? Whatever it takes. Like we don't care about the style of football, right? But like if they're choosing maybe Ancelotti, then like it's like, oh yeah, we want like good football too, and like
yeah,
and winning too. Like, and that's what I'm saying for Arsenal. Like, I want
Mm.
to have that expectation of, not only winning but also good football,
yeah,
which is what
and
we're known for.
yeah, and I think
Like
it's
since the late 1990s, I know we were
yeah,
also known for boring football before that.
yeah, but I also
yeah.
think there's a culture of club and the ethos, right, that dictates who you hire. And I think that's why we brought on Arteta. And I think there was a plan there that, we're going to do this a certain way. So to answer your question, this was, I think it's a combination, right? It's the fans, it's the coach, but also the culture that the club is known for. And I think if you have a good combination, or if you get that combination right, then you would get a winning formula, in my opinion.
Mm.
Yeah, what do you guys thought about our brief stint with Emery then? Did you guys have any fond memories or
Not really.
Not well. The first season when he took us to the Europa League final, right? I remember that,
yeah,
and we lost to Chelsea, and I was really looking forward to the next season. But the way it went downhill from there, I think I was not a big fan of that. But it was not only Emery. I think he lost the dressing room where players were making fun of him, right? So So it was just a recipe for disaster. That when he
No, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and I mean, just the way he's progressing currently at Aston Villa, he's definitely a good coach. And we went on like a 15 or 16 game unbeaten run, right? During that season,
Yeah,
like when he initially
yeah.
started.
What I will say to that, Manish, is that there are certain coaches that do well in the clubs that are not high in the table, right? And I don't want to diminish Aston Villa's accomplishment, but managing Aston Villa versus Arsenal, I think those are two different clubs that come with a whole total different responsibility. And I think Emery, um, his time at PSG, right? And I think that's why we got him, that he had PSG on his record. And then he was just not able to handle those big personalities in the dressing room. And I think that's what caused his downfall at Arsenal. And when you look at Aston Villa, you really don't have those big personality that he has to manage, right? Um, so I think
Mhm.
there is something said, there is something to be said about that. Like David Moyes did well at Everton, flopped at Man United. Now he's doing
Mhm.
well at West Ham, because those teams come
Yeah,
with different level of responsibility, expectation, and it's just a whole different ball game.
Totally
yeah,
agree.
but
And I like
yeah,
my
but
memory of Emery from when he was our coach was, watching the press conferences, right? The post match press conferences, and not getting that confidence that
Yeah.
from the manager, right? It's like he didn't really have that personality. Like,
Uh-huh.
now when you watch Arteta or Pep, like
Yeah.
you see that, you see that aura.
Hmm.
I feel like he didn't have that. I don't know if it was the language barrier, or
right.
like he just didn't have that personality,
Where is the
right?
Emery from?
He's
Spain,
from Spain.
Spain,
Spain.
Spain,
Okay.
Spain.
Spain.
But you got to think about like what he has won, right? He won, if I'm not mistaken, like a three Europa League in
Yeah.
Seville,
Yeah.
and he was also coach of PSG, who almost beat Barcelona. So he's a big time coach, but for whatever reason, he didn't work out at Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different story. But
Yeah.
like switching to the current story, like in our current season, is there any like particular signing that you guys are really excited about? I kind of know this answer, but I just want to hear
Right.
uh, your
Rice,
guys'
rice,
take.
baby.
Rice, baby. Yeah, of course. Declan Rice.
No, I have a different answer. It's Raya Raya, baby, but that's just personally for me. I mean, I'm gonna start different debate here, but yeah. So, what about Declan Rice that you guys like? Is he like the player for Arsenal who's gonna lead us to like a Premier League glory or Champions League glory, hopefully? Or what do you guys take? Or we need another like a cog in the wheel that's missing?
Well, Declan Rice, number one, the complete midfielder is what I think of him. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's English, which means, I guess, in England, right? Like that kind of matters in terms of leadership, communication, having that local London aura, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think he kind of brings that to the team. His physicality, like, he's like, I think he can play box to box midfielder. Like, he hasn't played that as much
Hmm.
in West Ham, because in West Ham you just defend. But in Arsenal, I think he has the potential to become a box to box midfielder. And the games so far, right? Like the eight PL games, two Champions League games. I think every game he's been either 8 or 9 out of 10,
Mm,
right? He's been that good. Because in his role, like, it's like he doesn't have to like score goals, but it's about like kind of breaking the blocks, like kind of doing that holding midfielder role, right? Defensive, plus also kind of making those passes forward, right?
Yeah.
He's been excellent. Like, I think Declan Rice, smooth transition, and hopefully, like, he's gonna be even better. Like, as he becomes, more offensive. I think he's gonna
Yeah.
be more offensive if, like, we have Thomas Partey back now.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything that's said so far. What I would also add is that he is young, right? He's like what, 24.
Yeah.
So spending that much money on a midfielder, I think, is going to be good for us in the long run, where we don't have to worry about midfield for a longer period of time. Now, of course, we have to think about selling Partey in years to come and who's going to replace him. But having that central leadership role in the midfield would serve us well in the long run. So I think Declan Rice, he knows Premier League pretty well. He knows the culture pretty well, and he has hit the ground running for me as well.
And I feel like, when Zaha left, right? Like he was kind of the leader of the team. He brought the intensity. He brought the, like even if we were losing, let's say, like he would kind of pull the team around
Yeah.
and try to like push the team, right? Like
Hmm.
after
Yep.
after we lost him, like I was kind of concerned that we don't have that person, and like usually ideally it would be in the midfield position, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where Declan Rice, he's our, I mean,
Yeah.
he's Granit Xhaka version 10,
Yeah.
right? He
Yeah.
uh, like he can be intense, he can be the leader. Plus,
Yeah.
yeah, he's much better than Zaha.
And then also, let's not forget that Man City came in for him too, right? So, I mean, just think about it, that if Guardiola was willing to spend upwards of $90 million, I mean, there is something in that player. And I don't believe the rumor where folks say that, oh, City was just trying to wind Arsenal up or trying to have us pay more. I don't
Yeah.
think clubs work like that, right? So, there is something to be said when a top tier team like City, with a player like Rodri in the middle, right, is going for Rice. Now, there's going to be a debate who's a better midfielder, but having gone for him, I think that shows how much Declan Rice is appreciated by the teams in the Premier League.
That goal against Manchester United was 20 million.
Uh,
All
yeah.
right. What about the $65 million question, Kai Havertz? I mean, I'm starting to see the change in your guys' face. That kind of explains it, but
I pers- I personally like him. I like him. I think he has the potential, right? He's like Mesut Ozil, but taller, kind of a player.
uh,
Where I feel like he's got the
Oh
skills,
man.
but he gives that vibe of he doesn't care, he doesn't put that much effort because that's the way that he plays, right?
mm,
He's kind of like lanky nature and very skillful, right? Um, but obviously he hasn't hit the amount of goals that we would have wanted, right? Or created assist, right? He hasn't had that impact because I like maybe he's lacking in confidence, but like he hasn't really imposed himself in the game so
Hmm.
far, is what I feel. But Arteta paid 65 million pound for a reason.
Yeah.
I think he has the potential.
I have a different thought, or maybe a theory for Kai Havertz, and I think he gives us sort of this dual threat, right? So he can play through the midfield, but he can also play up front, right? When he played against
yeah.
Man City, I think he gives us that sort of an aerial threat up front, right? So if you think about the Man City goal that we did, right? It first went to Tomiyasu. He headed the ball. It went to Kai Havertz, and then he passed it to Martinelli, right? I think we do not have a center forward, who could do that before. So I think Kai Havertz gives us that aerial threat in the front where he can head the ball and give us the second ball that we can, do the attack with. So I think that's what Arteta sees in him, like that dual threat, kind of like he can play the midfield. But if we need to change the tactics, right? Before we were not able to just ping the ball in the front and have somebody there, but now we do. Now, again, I don't know how much success he's gonna have, but I see that's what Arteta is trying to do.
Yeah, the game totally changed when he came
Uh
on
huh.
because
Yeah.
then Raya started to like throw bombs, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
like the long passes, like somehow it
Mm-hmm.
connected because he was there. Like
Mm-hmm.
he could basically take it and like kind of do the holding and
Yeah.
like let's spread it back and kind of
Yeah.
do the build up again. which I think Arteta probably learned from Man City as well, because
Yep.
Man City does that a lot. Like,
Yep.
it's like they don't always do their tiki taka
Yep.
passes. They do play a lot of long
Yep.
balls, like since Haaland came on.
Yep.
So Arteta is like kind of gave Man City the taste of their own medicine, like,
Mm-hmm.
and bringing Havertz in, throwing those long balls, and you
Yeah.
could see it was intentional, right?
Yeah.
Like even the goal when Thomas Partey made that long pass, right?
Yeah.
It was intentional. Like I saw the
Yeah,
video, the
Yeah.
sideline video, and he was like Arteta was like doing this already, like asking Thomas Partey to make the long pass, right?
Yeah.
And asking Tomiyasu to go front, right?
Yep.
So like that goal was so intentional, like it was not even funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was definitely pretty play, and I mean, I personally like Kai Havertz. I mean, the analogy that I like to give is like when you're running a marathon, right? If someone who moves the leg faster might seem like they're running fast, but the someone who takes longer stride might have a faster speed, than someone who moves their leg faster.
Yeah,
So like Havertz kind of seems like he's not trying too much or not giving effort, but if you look at his like on-field tactics and the way he presses the ball, he definitely presses as much as like Enkitia or
Mm-hmm.
Saka. Maybe not as much as Jesus because he's like a live wire, but definitely he puts an effort, and I think he puts more effort than Ozil. I mean, Ozil has more flair, but
I,
that's a
Yeah.
I think his sense of position is really good. Like he's in the
Mm.
right positions. Even like even if you see the games that we thought he didn't do well,
exactly.
he was in the good position. But like our other team members were not like did not see him or did not pass the ball to him, right? But he was always in like really good position, which I really like about him. I think he's very intelligent in that sense.
Yeah, I think unfortunately for Kai Havertz, anybody who plays in his position are judged on their output, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes I have to remind myself, okay, right, like he's not scoring, but he's doing other things that are really important for the team. And I think he's one of those players where, he doesn't score a lot of goals, but his in his position, that's how they're judged. So I think the debate will still continue, even if he continues to score here and there. I think people don't see the other work he puts in.
yeah.
How about the goalkeeper replacement? I thought that was I loved it because I always had a complaint against Ramsdale
Reps,
that he's
yeah.
not matured in. No, I don't think he's not matured enough, but he showed that immaturity in the field. I don't know if it was how uh, uh, Arteta wanted him to play, but at the back, he
Hmm.
always messed things up. The games that I have watched, I always felt like, okay, he's gonna make some stupid mistake, and then Arsenal is gonna pay for that.
Yeah. No, I
And
personally,
as
yeah.
Utsap mentioned earlier, that and I hadn't watched any games before this Manchester City game,
Hmm.
but I loved how that Raya, the new goalkeeper, he passed that long ball, the intentional long ball that you were talking
Hmm.
about earlier. He made that pass repeatedly so that the ball was always on the City side, and they were
Hmm.
always pressing them, right? So I thought that just seeing that game part where he did that, I thought it was worth it to replace Ramsdale. Even though people
Yeah,
say that he did do well and we are asking too much, we were asking too much of Ramsdale.
yeah. No, let me jump on this, and I think you and I agree on this. I personally don't think Ramsdale gives that stability to defense. Like when he's on goal, he's a great one-on-one shot stopper, but like he's not that commanding, or like maybe that communication is still lacking with the defense. Whereas with Raya, he might not be like as good of a one-on-one shot stopper as Ramsdale, but he gives that sense of stability to defense even when he makes mistakes, and his ball distribution is probably better than Ramsdale, and he also has that sense of calm. Ramsdale gets way too excited, and maybe it's because he's comparatively younger than Raya, And you gotta also think like Ramsdale is only 23, 24. Raya is 27. So Raya is supposedly at his peak. So now would be a good time for Ramsdale to be understudy for at least 1 or 2 seasons, and then maybe take over from Raya.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Ramsdale, great shot stopper, but like you, usually when you think of great goalkeepers, right, like Allison, like even like the previous Peter Michael and all those goalkeepers, you always see them and you feel like they do their job and they just go about doing their job, right? They're like not overtly excited, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Which Ramsdale gives that vibe because he's like playing around with the opposing
Yes.
fans at the
Yeah.
back, right? He's just like trying to prove something, and he just has that boyish kind of
Mm,
vibe when
Yep.
he's playing that. So when we look at it, we think that he's gonna mess up because he's too excited or
yeah.
he's emotionally not there, right? He's not
Mm,
stable. But he has like made some really clutch stops for us, right? He's won
yeah.
games for us last year. He was in the PL team of the year
Yeah.
for a reason. So not denying that he's not a great goalkeeper, but I agree that Raya is definitely better for Arsenal and the way we want to play from the back. He's really
Hmm.
good with the ball on his feet as well, not only distribution. Which I mean, to be fair, for the last 3 or 4 games, 5 games that he has started, I don't think he has like met that expectation that we have of him
Yeah.
on ball distribution and even like handling the ball because he's been kind of slow to the ball or like the passing hasn't been there. I don't know if it's because he's just getting used to Arteta style.
Hmm.
But I think again potential is there. Very
Yeah.
calm on the ball, very good with the feet. I
Hmm.
think. I mean, he's definitely Arteta's number one. We thought he was going to rotate between Ramsdale and
Yep.
Raya, but seems like he's number one for us.
Yeah, I think Raya is the number one. And let's not forget that before we got Ramsdale, Arteta went
Exactly.
for Raya, but
Hmm.
they just couldn't agree on a fee with Brentford at that time. So we went and bought Ramsdale. But Raya is number one. And, when you buy a backup keeper, supposed backup keeper for 20 million or how much ever we spent on Raya, I was like, yeah, nobody's going to spend that much amount of money on Raya, right? So as a for a backup keeper, so I think definitely he's gonna be the Arteta's number one. I'm curious to see how Arteta does with what he does with Ramsdale because I don't think Ramsdale's gonna stick around for a couple of years to be an understudy you know because he's he's almost where he's displacing Pickford for the national team. So I don't know if he's gonna stand back. The other side of thing is also is it good for Arsenal to keep Ramsdale and not to sell him, right? Because if we sell him now, we might be able to get good amount of money for him. Versus if we wait 2 or 3 years, depending on how his performance goes, we might not be able to recoup that money back. So I think this is a really interesting topic to kind of think, but also to see how Arsenal and Arteta do, right? Are they going to sell Ramsdale, get some money, like good amount of money, right? Because supposedly he's one of the most expensive keepers in the world now. So I'm interested to see how Arteta handles that, right? But definitely for now, I think Raya is his number one.
Yeah, but I mean, Ramsdale. I mean, for all of the good saves that he makes, he always lets in like he has like howlers. I remember last season, like against Southampton or one of the bottom of the league teams. I mean, he put us in the game, but at the same time, he let some of the goals in. So I mean, I don't know, if you want to be like the champions, Ramsdale is that keeper,
Mm.
but I mean, he's definitely a good keeper, but I don't know. And if someone like Chelsea comes with like 70 million, would you
Yeah.
sell him to Chelsea? That's the bigger question. I mean, I would sell for 100 million if someone pays 100 million for Ramsdale. I mean,
Yeah,
why not?
yeah, I don't think we'll get that.
Yeah, if anybody comes in with 100 million for a goalkeeper, that's a no-brainer. You sell.
If Arteta was actually rotating, then maybe his value would have
Yeah,
been higher. But now, since he's number two, I think his
yeah,
value has probably gone down.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, and Arsenal has historically been very bad at selling their players. I mean, look
yeah,
yeah,
at Bernd
yeah,
Leno, man. I
yeah.
hmm
don't know how we let him go for like less than 10 million. He's definitely worth like 20 million now, but we apparently let him go for like 3 million or 5 plus 5 million in add-ons. So I mean, that was, kind of, shooting ourselves in our feet, right? And like the way he transformed Fulham from like relegation team to like, like the almost like top 10 team last season, that's very commendable, right?
hmm
So hopefully we don't make the same mistake with uh,
Ramsdale.
Ramsdale.
I think with Leno, I have to go and check, but I think he was approaching his end of his contract, right? So we had to sell him
Yeah.
for whatever amount we got because we don't have the privilege of saying, "Oh, no, we're gonna wait for the next person," because you're gonna run out of contract, then he's gonna go on for free. I think that was the case. Also, the second thing was that he wanted to leave, right? And I think Arteta, for the sake of team chemistry and for the dressing room, I think he made that choice. It's like, okay, I'm not gonna have a keeper or a player who doesn't want to be here. I'm just going to let him go. So I think those two things caused that decision. But with Ramsdale, he just signed a long-term contract, if I'm not mistaken, last year. So I think it's there.
He did. He did.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we have much more power now. And I think just the way the club is run now, I
Mhm.
think we'll do better on transfer than what historically we've been doing.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the transfer window, right, this past summer, right?
Yep.
Because it was a total change of
Uh
strategy.
huh.
Just going for
Yeah.
the players early in the window,
Yep.
not waiting until the end of the window like we used to do,
Oh my God.
Mhm.
and panicking at the last minute, right? Like we just went for it. Like we just wanted to do business earlier, trying to get them before preseason, and we
Yep.
did. All three of them, I think we got them
Yep.
for preseason,
Yep. Yeah.
which
I think
reminds
it.
Well,
me which reminds me of our fourth signing, Julian Timber,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
who was the best player, right?
Yep.
Of
Exactly.
until the
Preseason, yeah.
until the first game,
Yep.
Yeah.
Community Shield. Like he was the best player. Like I had such high hopes for him because he looked so good, right? So comfortable on the ball. He could play inverted. He could play center
Yeah.
back. Like he just like I mean, when he comes back, hopefully it's this season, right? They're
Yeah.
probably saying February, March.
Hmm.
He's gonna change that team. Um,
Yeah. No, no. So what do you guys think about Enkitia? Like, do we still, is he the striker for the club or, and it definitely Jesus there, but I mean, Jesus gets injured half the season sometimes. So, we definitely need that.
Is Nketiah still playing or is he injured?
No, he's
He's
playing.
just start.
he's
He's
starting.
just started. Yeah, he just started his first game for England.
Yeah,
So
he came in like at the 75th minute or something.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Ketia, I don't think he's up to levels for Arsenal. Honestly, um, I know he has scored some crucial goals for us, like in the past in the last season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you saw the game against Man City, right? Like when you get that, he had one chance basically.
Mm-hmm.
That chance, like way wide off the mark, right? If you are a quality striker, you get that one or two chance, you at least hit the target, right? I feel like
Yeah.
you should at least hit the
Yeah.
target. Like I don't think, yeah, like he's really good in terms of finishing. Like we probably, I don't know, panics or like he's not there yet, and I don't see him, I guess, progressing to a level where like someone like let's say Rasmus Holland, right? Like from
Mm-hmm.
Manchester City, you see him and it's like, oh wow, like he's already like scored 3 or 4 goals. Like you can just see the potential,
Yeah.
like that him doing even better. When you
Yeah.
look at Nketiah, you don't get that vibes, right? It's like, why is he in the team? Is it because we don't have anyone else? I know, like when Jesus was injured, he was crucial for us, but
Mhm.
he plays well for a game or two, and then he disappears for like 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe he plays well for one game. So definitely debatable on whether he's even up to levels for our team. In my opinion, he's not.
I appreciate his work rate though. I mean, he puts in a shift, right? Like he is running, he does all that. it's just that key thing, that finishing is missing from his game. And the funny thing is that whenever he has to prove himself, he does that. Like last time, like, oh, like Jesus is gone, like what's gonna
Yeah,
happen, like everything's gonna go downhill. But then NKD came and played well, and then it was like, okay, here he is. And then everything was okay, and then he started not finishing then. So I don't know, it's just interesting.
he broke the record for under
Under 20,
21,
yep,
right? He's the top
Yeah,
scorer of
yep,
England.
yep,
So like he's done really well, like in under 21 with
yeah.
England setup and all that. Like he's scored a lot of goals. Like
Hmm.
he has a record. So not denying that he can't score goals, but I think for Arsenal and in
Yeah,
Premier League at that level
yeah,
to fight for the title,
yep.
maybe he's not there yet.
Yeah, and also because when you are in a league where City is so dominating, other teams like Arsenal, Liverpool, like we get only one chance, right, like season
yeah.
to mount that title challenge, and we cannot have a striker who cannot finish in front of the goal. So as much as I hate to say this, right, I think we need a new striker who can
Yeah.
convert those chances, because we create those chances quite a bit.
Yeah, and not only in KTL, like but Gabriel Jesus too,
Yep,
right?
yep, yep.
Great player, puts in a shift,
Yeah,
like the most hardworking striker there
yeah.
is out there, along with Julian Alvarez, I think. Um, but then again, like I think his flaw is that he just like goes back to the midfield or goes to the wings. That he's not in
Hmm.
the box, right?
Yeah,
He's not in the box to get those passes and like finish.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean,
Mhm. Go ahead.
Nketiah is kind of like you cannot count him. Like when you don't count him, he produces gem.
yep,
Like last season
yep,
when Jesus was out, nobody
yeah,
was counting like we're gonna
Yeah.
do well with Nketiah, but he scored like a couple of bangers. But
yep,
like this season, when you're counting on him, he's not. He doesn't produce. So I mean, if Arteta or Arteta is listening, our podcast, the consensus is Arteta and Edu. If you guys are listening, please make sure you guys sign striker. This coming January. I think
yeah.
that's the verdict of our group.
There is this rumor around Ivan Tony, right? So it would be interesting to see if we go for Ivan Tony. What do you guys think about Ivan Tony? I think that's a good topic to even.
He's a good striker, but I mean, he
Where
has
is he playing
character
right
and red
now?
flag.
He plays for Brentford.
Brentford,
Oh,
Brentford.
Brentford.
Yeah.
but he's suspended because he put on some betting or something.
Yep,
So he's suspended for illegal betting, which is
until
not allowed
December.
in
Yeah, until
professional
December.
sports.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's.
Why?
I mean, there are not many strikers out there these days,
that's the
right? It's
thing.
very
That's
it's
the
very
thing.
hard to find a
Yep.
striker. So the only two or three names that you can talk about, like Ivan Tony or Victor Osimhen,
Osimhen,
Awesome,
yeah,
yeah.
uh, maybe the what is the guy from Juventus, Blahovic. Um,
Vlahovic, yeah,
yeah,
Vlahovic.
is he
Yeah,
still in Juventus? Maybe he is.
yeah, he's,
Uh,
he's still there. Yeah,
Right. So just two or three strikers that are out there. I don't think we'll get Victor Osimhen. He's probably too expensive. Um, Vlahovic, we probably don't want him because he didn't want to come to us.
yep,
I think at one
yep.
point.
Yeah, there was a whole thing with his agent. So
Why can't Arsenal bring big players, big name players like Real Madrid does? What is the reason? Because now you guys are talking about how you want new striker, but then you are thinking a striker from Brentford, which is very local. I don't know.
no,
I just say,
if you look at Ivan
Hmm.
Tony's record, his output
Mhm.
is really good. So,
Yeah.
and the other thing with that is those big name strikers are typically available over the summer, right?
Hmm.
So if we are serious about this title challenge, right? And if we are doing well till December, and we want to find a striker that that bangs in about like 10 to 15 goals from January till August, I think
Hmm.
Ivan Tony does it. He knows the Premier League. He comes in. He's played against all the defenders, right? I think I think that's where we are going. That's what I'm saying, like with Ivan Tony. over December. I think if we're talking about summer, then the conversation changes. Then maybe we think about Victor Osimhen or somebody else
Yeah, personally, I think Ivan Tony might be a good fit for Arsenal.
in December. Yes, I would think so.
Even in summer transfer window, because he brings that level of play that's needed for
Uh-huh.
Arsenal. Because we have like a fast, pacey wingers, and we need someone like I mean, someone like Giroud might work, but that's that's a different topic for you
Yeah.
guys, right? But he plays on that mold, so he's definitely the striker that we need.
Hmm.
Um, I also wanted to talk about like so far, who has been your winners and losers, so far this season.
For Arsenal or for overall?
Yeah, for Arsenal, and maybe if we have time, we can say overall, for the whole EPL as well. But I mean, definitely Arsenal.
I can't think of a loser. Maybe somebody else might want to go first here.
Man, ESR Emil Smith Rowe.
I mean, he's not a loser. I mean, he has not gotten the opportunity to start, or maybe that's on him too, right? But he came in. Was he injured or something?
He was injured last or like before last year,
Yeah,
and he couldn't get any games when he came on. I think
yeah.
late in the season last year,
Hmm.
and this season he's probably fit, but he hasn't had opportunities so
Yeah.
far, right? In terms of gameplay time, I think he played once in the Carabao Cup game.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
probably started that game, looked good,
yeah.
um, but he hasn't had that chance. I think he's going to be great if he gets those run of games, but I don't see him replacing anyone from our
That's the
starting lineup
thing.
right now. Right now, right? Because who is he going to replace? Declan Rice? No, like or like
Is
Odegaard?
is Odegaard probably.
or Odegaard? Yeah, yeah.
Nah.
Um, I mean, in terms of winners, I would say Fabio Vieira like has totally changed in my opinion from the beginning of last season to now. He just has a different vibe, right?
Yeah,
He feels more confident, very gel with the team, and like he actually makes an impact when he comes on games. Very good with the ball. He always had that Portuguese talent, right? Like very good with the ball, like very good striker of the ball, but didn't have that physicality. Looks like
yeah,
Bernardo Silva. I always thought of him
yeah.
as a Bernardo Silva, but like he really
Yep.
didn't impose himself, and like similar to Kai Havertz when he came on, like didn't
Hmm.
look that confident, didn't really impose himself, and like when he got the chance, we were always like, "Come on, Vieira,
Yeah,
like what are you doing? Take that chance, right?" But now this season, he's like totally changed. He's like just bring it on, right?
yeah.
He's fighting for the starting position now, so definitely a
He,
winner.
yeah, he's slowly convincing me. I'm still not on board with Fabio Vieira. If we need a goal and I see Fabio Vieira coming in, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen here. But one interesting thing that Arteta said about him was his link up with Martinelli. And what he said was
Hmm.
that because those guys are friends off the pitch, because they're
Hmm.
best friends
Hmm.
off the pitch, like they find each other on pitch. So they kind of play off of each other, right? So if you know, so I think that's what might also be happening. That if we are starting to see good run game for Martinelli, we might see a good run game for Vieira because they just play off of each other. So that might be something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's the Portuguese speaking contingent in our team, right? Like
Yes, yeah,
Martinelli, Jesus, Gabriel. I think and Jorginho as well. Like
Jorginho, yeah,
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 Jorginho.
they get along really well. And Vieira made that great pass to Jesus for our goal against Manchester United. So definitely agree that there's some connection.
yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and Jorginho too. Like he is having like pretty decent season because nobody expected him to start last couple of games, but he's been pretty solid.
I
Like
mean,
especially against Manchester City, I think it
Yeah,
was really
yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
Honestly, I thought he would screw us up when he started on
yeah,
Manchester City game. I was actually very surprised, but he did really well.
I thought
Like
he was gonna get a. I thought he was gonna get a second yellow. I was like, he got it though. He got the first yellow like a 10-minute mark, and I'm
yeah,
like, I cannot see him going without a yellow card for the rest of the game. But he did. But man, he messed that game against Tottenham so bad.
Tottenham. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
Yeah, but
Oh,
he was just starting. Like he wasn't getting a run of games, right? So I mean, that's what happens.
but that, oh, I don't know, man. That pass was such a big blunder.
yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
Obviously, the VAR controversy is there as well, right? I mean, even on that Tottenham game, if I'm
Against
not
Liverpool
mistaken.
or for
Yeah,
us?
Liverpool.
Oh yeah,
Even
yeah.
for us, right? I thought there was something in that event. But anyways, what do you guys think about the VAR controversy in EPL?
I was a
Should we
supporter.
have VAR or should we not?
I was a supporter of VAR because on paper it makes sense because you
Yeah.
have technology, you do it, right? Like, why are you not utilizing the technology? But then again, when you listen to the audio from Spurs versus Pool game, then you're like, oh my God, how can you screw this up so badly, right? Implementing this. And I think there's definitely a learning curve there for the referees, but one thing I was also surprised is why is Premier League not using the automatic offside technology that folks were using in the World Cup? Why do we have to
Yeah.
draw the line, right? Like, because that becomes a challenge, I think, if you're drawing lines and seeing where people are. Why don't we just use the automatic offside tech? I think that would make things so much easier.
Yeah, I thought someone said that it's because of
Nike or Adidas, right?
EPL's like connection with Nike,
Uh,
us them using the Nike balls, which doesn't have that sensor,
uh,
and that's like an Adidas technology. So that's why they didn't go for it.
mm,
Is what someone was saying. I don't know who it was. But that makes more sense. Otherwise, there's no sense in doing this manual drawing of
yeah.
lines. like,
Yeah.
like, just go for the same semi-automatic, right? Like
Yeah,
VAR, where you can just see the 3D view of the person and the
yeah,
line, and like it's so accurate.
yeah. And I don't like how
Oh, they don't
PGMOL.
have that in EPL. I thought they did.
No,
So
No, they
no.
don't.
the referees they draw the line,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
like when
yeah.
they're inside the VAR,
yeah.
office wherever.
I
Exactly.
mean,
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, they might have a
so
technology, right, where they could just draw the line. So I don't think they're physically drawing the lines,
No, no,
but
but still,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if you're bad in maths, then there goes the game. The way you draw the line.
Yeah. And I don't like how PGMOL comes off apologizing now. That doesn't do any good to anybody. I don't know why they keep doing this. Like, they have this guy, the chief of the referee group, Howard Webb, coming on TV with Michael Owen and explaining everything. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that, right? Like, we were done by VAR twice last season, and they come out and say, oh, there was a human error. We apologize. Like, what good it's going to do anybody? Like, I don't want to hear your apology. Like, just, yeah, I don't know. What do you
I
guys
know,
think about
but
that?
I guess, I mean, they need to do that because they need to be accountable for it,
I guess,
and
yeah.
then they have to say this is how we are going to improve on it, right? Because if
Hmm.
they
Uh-huh.
don't even acknowledge that, then I mean, for the rest of us, we're like, are they even um, going to make any change or going to address why we are having such errors, right? So in
Yeah.
that sense, I guess it's okay. But then again, it's frustrating to hear that. I
Yeah,
understand
like
that
as a
too.
fan, right? Like, I don't want to, I don't know. And those conversation dominate the conversation after the game. So, people tend to look away from the performance, what's going on, and they just forget about the game and they just fixate on that. And I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that,
Yeah.
but I see your point about accountability.
Yeah. What do we think about Arteta? Arteta,
Yeah,
his evolution this season. What what do we think? How do we think that he's doing this season?
I think he's doing great. This is probably the season where he has tactically evolved as manager.
Hmm.
Like I said earlier, last season was all about flair,
Yeah.
having that player. Now it's about like tactical nuance,
Hmm.
switching that play. But the bigger question is like, is this the make or break season for Arteta? He's been here for like 3 or 4 seasons. He has just won us like one title. So if he doesn't win, I
One
mean,
cup.
whether we like it or not, last season we were so close, but we ultimately, choked up, so we didn't win the league. So I mean, is this the season that he has to win? I mean, I personally would give him another 3 or 4 seasons because I think he has made a good progression. But like, I don't know, like the majority of fans, they might be after his head, if we don't win something this season or next. So
This season is already different from last one because last season I don't think Arsenal beat Manchester City in
Yeah,
any of the games,
yeah,
and
yeah,
here
yeah,
this is the beginning of the season, and
mhm,
they've already won at least at home,
yeah,
which didn't happen last
I
year.
mean, last season was such a surprise. Nobody was
yeah,
expecting us to even fight for the title. Like, like
mhm,
we forget that right now, right?
yeah,
yeah,
But
no,
like
yeah,
no one
absolutely,
was expecting. Now it's like we are expected to win or
mhm,
fight for the title, right? It has totally changed.
yeah,
But it's like I feel like we as a fans have also gotten used to it now,
yeah,
right? It's like talking about fighting for the title. Because last year we were like, really? We are already fighting for the title? It's like
yeah,
like even when we were like 8 points ahead, we really didn't believe it, right?
yeah,
But now we expect it. Now
mm,
we expect it. It's like, yes, we got the team, we got the coach, we got, let's bring one or two more players in, and we'll get the title this season. It's like we're getting that confidence back.
yeah. I think Arteta definitely has evolved as a coach. Even in his press conference, I've seen a difference where previously he used to be very adamant about, oh, we're going to play our game no matter what we
yeah.
do. But now, he doesn't say that anymore, right? He changes those tactics. So I think there's a evolving going on there. And I also think he raised the bar for himself. I think it was of his doing, right? Like he did so well last season. I Because he has done so well, and because we have spent so much, I would like us to win something this season. Um,
Yeah,
but but I don't think this is a make or break season for Arteta. But having said that, I'm also not gonna give him 3 or 4 seasons like Manish says. I think next season, or maybe 2 more seasons, depending on how this season goes, I think we should be critical of Arteta as well. Um, so yeah,
but
that's
it's like the house that he built, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
who do you
yeah,
give keys to the house, right? I mean, I don't know who's if there is any coach that fits that mold, that makes the transition easier.
Yeah,
Uh,
it feels like he's our homegrown coach, right? Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
played for Arsenal. He really knows Arsenal,
yeah,
right? And the way that he tries to come up with his playing style is also in consideration of that, right? He
yeah.
knows the history of Arsenal, played under Wenger.
Hmm.
So I mean, I think it's not only for me. It's not only about titles, but he's already made progress in terms of bringing the fans back, connecting the fans
Hmm.
back, right?
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
such a different vibe at Emirates now. We've
yep,
never had such a good
yep.
in
yeah,
environment at Emirates since we had Emirates,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Totally changed. And like the kind of bringing in these young players, the playing style, right? Like he's it's not only about just coming in and putting in some tactics to win some games, right? Like he's like the total culture that's
Yeah,
like from the not only the players, fans, but also the in the backroom staff, like everyone, like it feels very connected. So I feel like just this season doesn't make or break it for sure.
yeah, yeah,
But obviously, like there's if he and even if he fights for titles for the next 2 seasons, I think I would give him more chance. But if
yeah.
it's like goes downhill, right? It's like
yeah,
all of a sudden we're like out of the Champions League, fifth or sixth, and it's just like doing the same thing and not working. Then obviously, our mood is going to change.
yeah, yeah.
Then the
We
mood will be Arteta out.
yeah, that's football. That's football, right?
That's
Football is
football.
brutal, right? Like last year we were saying Ramsdale, Ramsdale. This year it's like okay, Raya, baby.
I mean,
It's
I
brutal.
mean, Biswas and I were like pretty critical of Ramsdale even last season. So
Yeah.
besides us, you can say that. So I mean, it was fun speaking with you guys. This is one of the episodes that we wanted to do for a long time. Talking about Arsenal. I had really fun time. We did have like this kind of interaction before, but not in like a like this kind of platform. So it was. I see a lot of passion, as well as like thorough knowledge about Arsenal that all of us showcased. So it was fun chatting with you guys, and I think we came to the consensus that in Arteta we trust, at least for now. So yeah, hopefully this is the season for Arsenal. And for our listener and for our listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of Mind Without Borders. We'll be coming with other episodes with some interesting topics, like like today, and hopefully you guys can like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of Mind Without Borders. Until there, thank you, and have a good day from every one of us here.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Go Gunners!
Go Gunners. All right.
Let's win the title.